Imagine a tree growing in the middle of the forest. It does not compete for space with the sky. Don't rush your roots. It doesn't compare to the surrounding trees. Still, it grows. Silently, firmly, in the exact time that belongs to you. Now, look at your own life. How many times have you felt like you needed to fight against everything to move forward? Against time, against others, against yourself, as if growth required constant effort, resistance, tension, as if life were an invisible battlefield. But what if that wasn't true? There is a type of growth that is not born from confrontation. He does not impose himself. He does not force. He does not invade. It happens like water finding its way between stones, like the morning light that comes through the window without asking permission, like moss that covers the rock, not by strength but by constancy. From a very early age we learn that living is fighting, that growing up hurts, that winning requires toughening up, and, little by little, we are moving away from something essential, the natural rhythm of existence. There is an ancient wisdom that never screams. It whispers through the wind, the sound of rain, the silence between two thoughts. She reminds us that the universe does not move by tension but by harmony, that everything that truly grows comes from listening, not from imposition. Maybe the tiredness you feel doesn't come from life itself, but from the constant resistance against it. Maybe anxiety is just a sign that you're trying to swim against a current that never demanded it of you. Today, I want to invite you to rest for a moment, not giving up, but to let go, watching how nature grows without fighting anything. And, in that silent mirror, remember something that has always been within you. If, on some deep level, you feel there is a smoother, truer path, more aligned with the unseen that sustains all things, then stay here. This video is a space for pause, breathing, and reconnection. Because growing up, maybe it was never about fighting. Notice the way nature expands. Nothing about her seems eager to arrive sooner. Nothing tries to prove that it is more than it already is. Growth happens because there is space, time, and permission. A seed does not argue with the earth. She does not demand light ahead of time. Don't despair in the dark. She rests. And in this deep rest, something invisible begins to move. Growing without forcing is trusting this silent movement. It is understanding that there is a greater intelligence flowing behind all things, an intelligence that doesn't need pushing. She just asks for alignment. However, modern humans have learned the opposite. He learned to press, controlling, accelerating processes that require maturation. We turn growth into a mechanical project and life into a distant goal that never arrives. When we try to grow by force, something breaks inside. The mind anticipates the body. Desire overrides feeling. And what could flourish becomes just survival. There is a profound difference between acting and forcing. Acting comes from listening. Forcing is born from fear. The water does not fight the mountain. She gets around it. She waits. She returns every day without rushing, without anger. And over time, what seemed unshakable transforms. This is the secret we rarely learn. Softness is not passivity. She is precision. She knows where to touch. She knows when to back off. She knows when to just stay. How many times have you tried to become someone different to be accepted? How many times have you hardened your emotions to appear strong? How many times have you ignored your own cycles because you thought you were late? In nature, there is no delay. There is a season. There is winter. There is a pause. True growth doesn't happen when you push life away, but when you create space for it to come through you, when you wipe off the excess, when it silences internal noise, when you stop comparing your path to others. Each being grows according to the calling it carries. A mountain does not want to be a river. A river does not want to be wind. And yet, they all belong to the same invisible movement. Growing without fighting is accepting the shape of your own soul. It's honoring the time needed to mature. It is allowing transformation to come from within, like a sprout that breaks through the earth, not through violence, but because it no longer fits in the dark. If this idea touches something in you, maybe it's because a part of you already knows it. Maybe you're tired of pushing doors that never needed pushing. Perhaps you are ready to experience quieter, more wholesome, truer growth. And when that happens, Life stops being a battlefield and becomes a path. There are times when the water in a river appears cloudy, not because it is dirty, but because it has been shaken. Stones removed, banks altered, current rushed. Still, when the movement slows down, when the river finds a wider stretch, the water naturally becomes clear again. Purity is not born of control. It arises when the flow is respected. There is a silent, almost forgotten idea that to live in harmony you need to be clean inside. But this cleaning is not about perfection. It has to do with unblocking, with removing the excess that impedes the natural movement of life. Watch the rain. She doesn't choose where to fall. Don't judge the soil. It just descends, washing what it finds, following its invisible path. Between heaven and earth, the flow is like this. He doesn't force a pass, he adapts. When the wind meets a mountain, it does not try to cross it like an enemy. He envelops her. He goes up. He changes direction. And yet, it remains wind. Adapting is not losing who you are. It's about preserving the essence while adjusting to the form. Human beings suffer because they confuse adaptation with surrender, believe that changing is weakening, that being flexible is betraying yourself. And then he hardens, even when it hurts him inside. But anything that remains rigid for too long breaks. Water teaches something profound. It adapts to any container, without ever ceasing to be water. She can be calm or impetuous, transparent or deep, but her nature remains intact. That's what purity is. It is not the absence of brands, but loyalty to the essence itself. When we try to maintain a fixed identity, an unchanging image, we create resistance to the flow of life. And this resistance turns into tiredness, anxiety, the feeling of always fighting against something invisible. True adaptation happens when we accept the cycles. There are moments of expansion. There are moments of reflection. There are days of clarity. There are foggy days. Fog is not a mistake. She just asks for a break. Purifying yourself sometimes means stopping reacting. It's allowing emotions to pass like clouds. It's not getting attached to what has already fulfilled its role. And perhaps, if this idea resonates with you, if something inside softens when you hear these words, this is a silent sign that your internal flow is trying to reorganize itself, that something in you has already started to adapt, without struggle, without noise. Life does not require you to always be the same. It only asks that you be truthful at each stage, like the river that changes width, but never stops heading towards the sea. There is a silent belief that crosses generations, that life only progresses when there is continuous effort, as if relaxing was synonymous with being late, as if stopping was dangerous, as if letting your guard down means losing. And so, we learn to live in a state of permanent tension. The body contracts before even realizing the danger. The mind anticipates problems that do not yet exist. The heart closes, believing that it needs to protect itself from the world. Little by little, the fight stops being external and starts happening inside. But look carefully. How many of these battles actually needed to be fought? Most of the struggles we carry come not from life, but from our interpretation of it. We fight against time because we want to control the pace. We fight against others because we are afraid of losing space. We fight ourselves because we believe we are not enough. This constant struggle creates a dangerous illusion that if we relax, everything will fall apart. But the truth is different. What falls apart is often just the rigid image we try to maintain. Nature is not at war with itself. A branch that breaks is not blamed. A season that ends cannot resist. Everything gives way so that something new can emerge. When we insist on fighting every change, we become like someone trying to hold water with their hands. The more you tighten it, the more it escapes. The exhaustion that so many people feel today does not come from the amount of tasks, but from the amount of internal resistance, from the habit of transforming each challenge into a confrontation. Every error in judgment, every pause in guilt. There is a type of strength that comes from hardening, but it is short, fragile, and exacts a high price. It may last for a while, but it doesn't last. Everything that lives needs flexibility. The heart that beats too hard fails. The tree that does not bend with the wind breaks. The mind that does not relax becomes ill. The illusion of constant struggle makes us believe that we always need to be prepared for impact. But living like this is never resting. It's never trusting. It's never allowing life to carry us for a stretch. Letting go of the fight does not mean abandoning the path. It means stopping hurting yourself unnecessarily while walking it. When you stop fighting what is, you have energy left to take care of what matters, to feel more clearly, to act more precisely, to hear the subtle signals that were previously drowned out by internal noise. Perhaps true courage is not in resisting all the time, but in recognizing when the fight is over, when she was never needed, when growth was just waiting for you to loosen your fists and open your hands. There is a moment when the effort dissolves. No, because that everything is resolved, but because something in us stops resisting. It is in this silent moment that the invisible approaches. He was never distant. I was just waiting for space. We live much of our time too busy to notice what sustains life, filling each gap with noise, every silence with distraction, every empty, in a hurry. And without noticing, we move away from the source that replenishes us. Reintegration begins when we stop trying to control what cannot be controlled, when we accept that there are forces in motion that do not need our constant vigilance, like the night that arrives without being called, like the dawn that returns even after the longest darkness. The invisible does not require belief. It manifests itself in direct experience, in the unexpected shiver when you hear the wind between the trees, in the feeling of relief when we let go of an old worry, the moment the body relaxes for no apparent reason. To reintegrate is to remember, remembering that we are part of something bigger, even when we can't name it, remembering that we are not separated from life, just temporarily distracted from it. When we walk through a forest in silence, something clicks inside. The heart rate slows down. Breathing finds another rhythm. It's as if the body recognizes an old home. This recognition does not pass by logic. It happens in the field of feeling, where there are no arguments, just presence. The invisible communicates through subtle signals. He doesn't push. He invites. A tiredness that calls for a break. An intuition that calls for change. A nuisance that reveals misalignment. But to listen, you need stillness. And stillness is not the absence of action. It is the absence of internal noise. Reintegrating yourself means allowing silence to have space again. It's sitting with yourself without the need to correct yourself. It's accepting that not everything needs an immediate response, that some questions ripen in the dark. When we stop fighting, the invisible finds passage, and what seemed confusing begins to organize itself effortlessly, not because we understand more, but because we trust more. Confidence does not eliminate uncertainty. It just allows us to walk even without guarantees, like someone who walks through the fog feeling the ground beneath their feet, even without seeing the horizon. Maybe this is what we call everyday spirituality, not something distant or elevated, but the ability to live in tune with what is unseen without needing to dominate. And when this reintegration happens, something essential aligns. The body relaxes, the mind opens, and life, finally, finds space to flow again. Living in harmony in the modern world does not mean running away from it. It's not about abandoning responsibilities or retreating far away. It's learning to walk through the noise without allowing it to become your internal voice. The challenge is not in the excess of stimuli, but in the way we relate to them. When everything demands an immediate response, haste becomes a habit, and habit, identity. Harmony begins when we interrupt this automatism, when we realize that not every urgency is real, that not every opinion needs to be defended, that not every opportunity needs to be seized. There are silent choices that change everything. Breathe before responding. Rest without guilt. Say no without justifying too much. These simple gestures create internal space for life to breathe through us again. In the modern world, we are trained to react. Little is said about listening, but listening is a profound form of action. Listen to your body when it asks for a break. Listen to the mind when it asks for silence. Listen to your heart when something no longer makes sense. Living in harmony is aligning action and intention. It is acting when there is clarity, and waiting when there is confusion. It is understanding that the external rhythm does not always need to be followed, that it is possible to walk slower without falling behind. Serenity is not born from the absence of problems, but from the absence of unnecessary resistance. When we accept that some things just are the way they are, we stop wasting energy trying to change them by force. And this energy returns in the form of presence. In everyday life, harmony manifests itself in small rituals. A moment of silence in the morning, a close look at the sky at the end of the day, a walk without a defined destination. These gestures remind the body that it was not made just to produce. Even in the midst of commitments, it is possible to live smoothly. It's not about doing less, but about doing it with less tension, with less rigidity, with more awareness. When we act like this, something changes. Decisions become simpler, conflicts lose strength, and what seemed heavy begins to organize itself. Living in harmony in the modern world means accepting that not everything will be balanced all the time, but it is choosing, over and over again, to return to the center, to the point within where there is no struggle, only direction. And the more often we make this return, the more natural it becomes. Until we live without fighting against everything, it stops being an effort and becomes a way of existing. At the end of a silent day, when the sky changes color without asking for attention, we realize something simple. Life goes on, even when we stop pushing it. She follows her course, as she always has, and perhaps that is the greatest teaching of all. Growing without fighting is not giving up on the path. It is recognizing that the path exists before our steps, that there is a subtle direction sustaining each movement, even when we don't know how to name it, even when everything seems uncertain. When we let go of the need to control, something reorganizes inside. The body finds rest, the mind finds space, and the heart finally finds a rhythm. We don't need to win life to live well. We don't need to harden to mature. We don't need to carry the world on our shoulders to prove that we are moving forward. Nature has never demanded this of us. She just invites us to listen, feeling, following up. Maybe true growth happens when we stop asking, "What else do I need to do?" and we started asking, "What can I release now?" Let go of rigid expectations. Drop comparisons. Let go of the rush to arrive ahead of time. Let go of the idea that everything needs to be difficult to have value. There is a deep dignity in softness, a silent strength in those who trust, an ancient wisdom in those who respect their own cycles. If you've made it this far, maybe something in you is already moving, not as a push, but as a calling, a discreet invitation to live with less resistance and more presence. May you take this look to small gestures, for everyday decisions, for the way you treat your own limits, because living in harmony is not a distant ideal, it is a daily practice of listening. And if this path resonated with you, if these words found some space inside, sign up and continue walking with us along the path of the soul. Here, each step is taken with attention, and each silence also teaches. Before leaving, allow yourself one last break. Breathe. Feel the ground beneath your feet, and take this question with you, not as an answer, but as a whisper. What if what we call destiny is just the whisper of the kami that accompany us since birth?